Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 10 a.m. This is the Committee on Corrections, Military, and Veterans. We have an agenda here with, I think, 4 measures. But before we begin, Vice Chair, can you please give our audience some housekeeping notes?
Good morning, everyone. Of course, we're all getting used to this format. You're going to be hearing this a lot. Because morning hearings must adjourn prior to the noon floor session, not all testifiers may have the opportunity to testify. In that event, please know that your written testimony will be considered by the committee. Please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with technical staff only. Please use the chat only for technical issues. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of a catastrophic network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision-making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And with that, we'll get started. First up, we have House Bill 290 relating to the vehicle weight tax. DOD, Major General, good morning. House Bill 290.
Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair. Just want to let you guys know that we stand on our written testimony submitted, and I'll be waiting for any questions from you guys concerning our testimony. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. That testimony in opposition. We have testimony from the Department of Transportation.
Good morning. My name is Lynn Araki-Regan from the State Department of Transportation. We stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. We have some testimony from an individual, Jacob Wiensek, in support. That's all the testimony I have for House Bill 290. Is there anyone else on the Zoom call who is hoping to testify on House Bill 290? Members, any questions? Thank you. House Bill 782 relating to licensing. First up, we have the DOD again. Southwest Regional Liaison Kelly Mae Douglas is who I have on my list. Good morning. Okay. If we didn't get you, we'll come back to you. We have a U.S. Indo-Pacific Command Major.
Hello. I can't hear anything on my side. Is it? I think it's my turn for a testimony, but I can't hear. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go for it.
Yes. Okay. I don't know why my sound's not working, but I'll go ahead and speak, and I'll check the chat for questions. My name is Kelly Mae Douglas. I'm the Pacific Southwest Regional Liaison for the Defense State Liaison Office, the U.S. Department of Defense. Thank you, Chair Ono and Vice Chair Gannon for having me. I did provide written testimony, and I think I'll refer to that, but I just want to make a few comments here in online. The Department of Defense has prioritized licensure issues for military spouses for several years now. And recently, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden has reaffirmed our priority on military spouse employment and licensure portability within her renewed Joining Forces initiative that she started back in when she was Second Lady with Mrs. Obama. HB 782 is, we support it. I did provide comments for recommended improvements if the committee and Chair, if you're amenable to looking at those suggestions. They're really minor. We really appreciate the intent of the bill, and we see that it expands and streamlines the process for endorsement for military spouses in 30 occupations. Which is, I think, a big step forward for Hawaii in terms of DoD perspective. One thing that we would like to see is if the temporary licensure piece for those spouses that are not in the 30 identified occupations, if those If the temporary license could be a little bit more streamlined, including stipulating a 30-day adjudication for the application for the spouse to begin work as soon as possible, and also to remove the supervision and substantial equivalency from the temporary licensing piece. That would be really helpful to get our spouses to work as soon as possible while they're working to meet the endorsement requirements for the full license in Hawaii. So with that, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I can't, it's hard without feedback, but I appreciate you having me, and I stand by to answer any questions that you have via the chat. I'll check the chat, or you can always email me or give me a call. But I really do appreciate it on behalf of military families and the Department of Defense, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have your written testimony, Ms. Douglas. Thanks for rolling with this new environment we're in. Next up, we have U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Major General Suzanne Barris-Lum.
Thank you.
Aloha, Chair Ono and Vice Chair Ganadin and committee members. My name is Major General Suzanne Barris-Lum. I am the Mobilization Assistant to the Commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. And for those of you not aware, Indo-Pacific Command, my commander is responsible for all U.S. forces from the California coast, the west coast of India, Hawaii being the central headquarters, with U.S. Army Pacific, U.S. Pacific Fleet, U.S. Pacific Air Forces, Special Operations Forces, and Marine Forces Pacific. We have almost 377,000 soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen, and a huge number here on Hawaii, and those all come with dependents and spouses. So, really, there are approximately 24,000 military spouses in Hawaii, and that is the reason why I've submitted testimony, and I thought I could provide additional remarks or kind of highlighting some of the testimony submitted. Based on the national numbers, 9,000 military spouses are licensed professionals, and in a 2018 Blue Star Family Survey of state licensure issues affecting military spouses, it suggests that there's slightly more than 4,000 licensed professionals, military spouses, unable to contribute to local economies due to the the licensing regulations. And, due to a variety of reasons, the state of Hawaii does have a shortage of some of these professional licensed career fields in which I believe military spouses who are currently licensed and are willing to work. Many of them, are really here only on an average of 3 years. And obtaining a license really in every jurisdiction, every time they move, would be a significant burden. And so allowing them that, streamlined process for licensing and also allowing them to contribute to our state would be beneficial both ways. And so really on behalf of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command and our families here, we hope that you will consider, we're definitely in support of this great House Bill 782 and appreciate your consideration. And thanks for the opportunity to testify.
You got it. Thank you for being here. DCCA, we have up next PVL, Ms. Alani.
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Alani Kiyoki, Licensing Administrator of the Professional and Vocational Licensing Division. The department appreciates the bill's intent to streamline the process and accelerate the timeline for military spouse to receive a license by endorsement. Most importantly, this bill allows the PVL the appropriate time to issue both a temporary license and a permanent license to a military spouse without severely compromising the department's ability to effectively evaluate the applicant's qualifications and protect Hawaii's consumers. I'll stop there and I'll be available for any questions should the committee have them.
Thank you very much. DOD, Major General Hara, or his representative.
Good morning again, Chair and Vice Chair. This is Brigadier General Kauivi representing General Hara. And we stand on the testimony we submitted, and I'll be standing by for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. And the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Jason Chung.
Hey, aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. I'm Jason Chung. I'm the Vice President for the Military Affairs Council with Chamber of Commerce. And thank you for this opportunity to voice our strong advocacy for House Bill 782. We stand on our written testimony, but I would just like to highlight 2 quick points. This is not about taking jobs away, but filling critical shortages in teachers, nurses, and other health-related fields. 2, it's about welcoming and integrating our new members into your community. The military is the second economic driver in the state, significant support to our economy, jobs, opportunity, and of course, partnership. So let's join the many other states that have approved very similar measures. Again, I want to thank you for this opportunity to provide strong testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. We have support provided by maybe 6 individuals, all in support. That's the testimony list I have for House Bill 782. Is there anyone else on the Zoom call who hopes to testify on House Bill 782? Members, questions? Vice Chair Ganadin.
So Ms. Kiyoki. Good morning.
Good morning.
In your testimony on page 2, you mentioned, I'll just quote you, the Department refers to the Department of Defense regarding its preference for the language contained in this measure, as opposed to Administration Bill HB 961. Is there any major difference between these 2 bills that we should be aware of?
Well, specifically, we did do a comparison of the 2 bills, and in section 2 mainly, so this is not with regard to our specific statutory chapter 436B. 436B in both bills reflects similar language, so we are okay with that. The difference is with regard to specifically section 2 of House Bill 782, which includes additional amendments to add definitions of dependent. And then it amends section 78-1 subsection C to include, except that a bona fide military service member's dependents are exempt from the requirement to become residents if they are in the state by virtue of the military service member's orders. If you'd like, I could send the comparison sheet to your committee clerks.
If the chair desires it, I just wanted a clarification. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, further questions? I have a quick question for DCCA. Thanks for being here. One of the testifiers suggested that some language be inserted that spouses can be licensed for the entire time that they're in state, that they're in Hawaii, as cited in House Bill 961. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, Chair, I could barely hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. One of the testifiers suggested that spouses should be allowed to be licensed for the entire time that they're here in Hawaii, which I think is part of the language that's in House Bill 961. Did you have any thoughts on that?
The time period that the individual is here is, I believe one of the testifiers said, anywhere from 1 to 3 years, and I apologize if I'm not quoting them correctly. So this bill would allow them, either measure would allow them to hold a license for the period of time that their spouse is stationed in the jurisdiction. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
That's helpful. Thank you. Members, further questions? Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to House Bill 1033. First up, we have testimony from PSD Director Otani. Good morning. House Bill 1033.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Max Otani for the Department of Public Safety. In summary of our written testimony, we're in strong support of this bill. This bill basically is asking for funding of 186.5 unfunded positions, and these are ACOs and healthcare positions, which is very crucial for us to operate our correctional facilities. We are currently ramping up recruitment and training classes, and if approved, we hope to have all these positions filled shortly. I'll be available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the testimony I have for House Bill 1033. Is there anyone else on the Zoom who would hope to testify on House Bill 1033. If not, members, any questions? Yes, Vice Chair Ganadin.
Good morning, Director Latani. On page 2 of the bill, it notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different facilities. In a previous hearing, we discussed the possible usage of the Federal Detention Center for housing inmates. So I was wondering if the department were to go forward with that, where would that where would the funding for that staff come from? Could you just kind of explain that? Did we lose him?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
So you're asking where the funding for the Federal Detention Center would come from?
Yeah, and can you just kind of explain that interaction between the state with the department and the Federal Detention Center?
Okay, we have an agreement with the Federal Detention Center to house up to 100 inmates. We're in the process of screening inmates right now who would be eligible for transfer to the Federal Detention Center. I believe right now we have approximately maybe a dozen or so inmates being housed there. Funds are allocated for that contract with the FDC. So this request would have it would be different, would not be in line with the FDC's placement cost for placement of inmates there.
As you know, there's bills moving forward in the House and the Senate to do the slow phase out of the state's usage of private prisons. Would this allocation serve in the next fiscal year to allow for the beginning of that process, or would you require more staffing?
This allocation is to bring us up to staffing requirements at this time. We are severely short-staffed in almost all of our correctional facilities, which is leading to a lot of overtime and shutting down of programs for inmates. So it really I think the phasing out, the legislature's request to phase out private prisons is something that would need to be addressed with either additional bed space or releasing of more inmates.
Thank you so much.
Please, yes.
One more question. Thank you, Chair. Can you explain how overtime has been functioning during the last year? So you mentioned overtime, and it was reported on in the media as well. So can you kind of explain how that's been working with the department?
Overtime has been a continuous problem for us. I believe this year with COVID, it'll probably be another high year for us paying out overtime to get staff filled. There are each officer at the facility is assigned a post that needs to be manned, and there are certain posts that we cannot close, and these are called essential posts or red posts, and overtime is normally used to fill these positions.
Can you provide the committee with an approximate amount of overtime that has been paid out by the department in the last year?
Last fiscal year?
Yeah.
Yes, we can provide that. But overtime is basically, one is vacancies, so these unfunded positions would help with the vacancies. The other issues are, regular time off that people take for vacation and sick leave, and we also have issues of workman's comp and FMLA that contribute to the overtime.
I understand that. What I'm trying to get at is, will funding these positions help the department reduce its the amount that it's been paying for overtime?
I believe it will, because the more staff that we have on board, then the less staff that we have to keep back to fill these essential posts.
Okay, but you don't have a number for the committee now.
I don't have the overtime numbers, but it was provided in our budget briefing, and we can get that to you, shortly after the hearing.
Thank you, Director.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Representative Kobayashi.
For Director Otani, do you need any non-personnel costs?
In what areas? I believe we have a request for costs for COVID, but those would be non-personnel costs.
No, I mean, oftentimes when we see an appropriation for positions, there is also money for non-personnel costs related to those positions.
I see. So you're talking about equipment and office space and all these other.
Yeah.
At this point, no. These are positions that were established and it was just unfunded. And what we're doing right now is just seeking funding to get these positions filled.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, further questions? Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our last bill on the agenda, House Bill 796. First up, we have the Office of the Public Defender, Ms. Jackie Esser. Good morning.
Good morning. Am I in? Okay, everyone can see me. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Aloha. Thank you, Chair Ono, Vice Chair Ganadin, and all members of the House Committee. My name is Jackie Esser. I am with the Office of the Public Defender, and I am here to testify in support of HB 796. Not disclosing the information mandated in Act 234 when employees and incarcerated people die in our state correctional facility and community centers not only undermines public trust and accountability, but precludes our office, community advocates, and policymakers from identifying problematic policies and practices within the department that may be putting the health and safety of people in its care and custody at risk, many of whom are clients of the Public Defender's Office. And for these reasons, our office supports the proposed amendments to the law, which make it clear that disclosure of such information is not discretionary. And if such information is claimed to be privileged, that the director cite the law in which it's relying upon to withhold the disclosure. Our office also supports requiring race and ancestry of the decedent to be included in making the copy of the report readily available to the family and the press. Providing this information not only provides much needed answers to grieving family and loved ones, but the comprehensive data can help identify problems within our system and help improve it to make us all safer. I quickly reviewed some of the testimony, and I find it ironic that they're relying on the privilege of the family and the confidential information, but it was the lack of disclosure of deaths in custody by family members that was the intention behind the law, Act 234. So I'll rest on our written testimony. I'll be available for questions. My battery on my computer, though, is dying, so if I sign off, that's why. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you. PSD, up next, Director Otani, House Bill 796.
Hi, good morning again, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Max Otani, Director, Department of Public Safety. Department is in opposition of this bill. We believe there are legal requirements under HIPAA, even under death, that would protect the person's, medical information. Public safety, we attempt to contact family members if the inmate is placed in hospitalization. And if the hospitalization is serious enough or death is imminent, family members are notified. There's a next of kin that is listed by the inmate, and every effort is made to contact the family member. A lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but there have been occasions where the information is not up to date or the inmate refuses to provide us that information. We've had several cases that I reviewed where family members denied visits at that time. But we believe that this is in conflict with federal laws, and I'll be available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. We have testimony from the Community Alliance on Prisons. Kat Brady. Good morning. House Bill 796.
Good morning, Chair Ono and Vice Chair Ganadin. Thank you so much for this opportunity to testify. This bill actually strengthens an existing law, and the law was passed because the department was not disclosing who passed away in their correctional facilities. I have been a member of the UH Institutional Review Board for 20 years. We review research every month, and HIPAA is also something that comes up often. I beg to differ with the department and the AG. HIPAA is about medical information. What this bill calls for is not medical information. It is the name of the person, where the person was. In my testimony, look at the websites from Arizona and Nevada that give full information and sometimes pictures of the person who passed away. So this is not in conflict with federal law. That is about, HIPAA is about medical information, privacy about somebody's personal medical information. This is not personal information. When somebody gets arrested, their name, their picture, their offense, and everything goes all over the news. Why can't the public know in a publicly funded facility that someone has passed away? That is really public information, and we totally support this bill, and we hope that you do as well, and that the department will be transparent and accountable. Thank you so much for this opportunity to testify. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day, Kat. That's all the testimony I have for House Bill 796. Is there anyone else on this Zoom call who is hoping to testify on this measure? Members, questions? Vice Chair Ganadin.
Thank you so much. Again, good morning, Director Otani. I'm hoping you can explain to the committee the process by which you would, the department would investigate a death in a facility in a private prison. There have been several deaths over the last few years. I believe at least 2 in the last year as a result of coronavirus. I'm unsure of that number. And then there have also been several homicides within federal facilities. I'm hoping you can explain to us the process by which you would investigate those deaths, as well as provide information to the governor or to the legislature.
Okay. In the situation where COVID-19 is involved, we would take directives from the medical examiner's office to determine the exact cause of death. I don't know if that answers your question. I think there is often a delay in relating COVID-related deaths, and it's because we need to wait for the final outcome from the medical examiners. As far as situations involving homicide or assaults in prisons, it goes hand in, the facility investigation goes hand in hand with usually a criminal investigation by a law enforcement agency in that jurisdiction.
So because the jurisdiction of the state of Hawaii follows the individuals who are housed in private facilities, would the state of Hawaii be doing that investigation, or would we be leaving it to local law enforcement in whatever jurisdiction our citizens are in?
If the offense occurred in another jurisdiction, the jurisdiction that the inmate is in would investigate the offense, the criminal offense.
So to your mind, would this bill apply to, say, your equivalent in Kanawha County, Arizona?
If this bill would apply to, I don't understand your question, sir.
If you're telling the committee that we leave it to other states and other counties to do investigations of deaths, then does this bill apply to them?
on the criminal side, the state or the county that the inmate is in will conduct an investigation. We have an obligation on our side. If there is any wrongdoing of staff, we have our internal affairs investigators also look into that situation if staff was involved. And I believe our counterparts in Arizona also have their own investigators that would investigate the alleged crime.
So would they have to timely notify the state of Hawaii, decedents' families, the governor, the legislature pursuant to law, or can they just do their own investigation and communicate?
In the event of death, the facility that's holding the inmate for us would notify us immediately, and we would notify the family members.
But there's no set time on that, so we're not sure.
It's we have a time frame of within 24 hours.
Thank you, Director.
Member, further questions?
Oh, you're in
Okay, I have a couple questions, members. First of all, for PSD, thank you for being here and thanks for your patience with us. Can you quickly, Director Otani, can you quickly talk about when an inmate dies, when the family is notified and what information is provided to them? I understand that within 48 hours, you have to tell the governor. Are you able to tell the family all the time in that 48-hour window?
A lot of times we would not know the actual cause of death, so we would not tell them what the actual cause of death is if we didn't know. So even with notification to the governor, a lot of times we would not list the cause of death. We would just give the notification within 48 hours that an inmate had passed.
Are you always able to reach the family within that 48-hour window before relaying it to the governor?
No, it's not always successful because contact information sometimes is not up to date. Sometimes the inmates do not have a contact listed, so making contact is not guaranteed.
When an inmate dies, what information is released to the general public or the media, and when does that happen?
We try to get the information out as soon as possible. The information we have, at the recommendation of our Attorney General's office, we have scaled back on the information that we've been releasing. We were advised to give an age range and the date that the person was, and the gender, I believe, and the date that the person passed. But that's the only information that we were recommended to be released.
And my final question, thank you for your indulgence. The medical examiner's report that you mentioned that may be more definitive, when the medical examiner's report is, I don't know, received by PSD, at that point, is the information, are you comfortable allowing that information to be public?
Again, it's not our decision to make. We believe it's still, covered under privacy laws.
Okay, understood. Members, further questions? Okay, Rep. Bronco.
Thank you, Chair. This is for Director Otani. If the family is reached within that 48-hour period, does the family or next of kin have the ability to say that the information will not be released to the general public?
We normally do not release information that would be able to identify the inmate. So, the family could tell us not to release the information, but I think the information that we release should not have any, should not include any information that would be able to identify the inmate that passed.
The reason why I asked is when I worked for the federal government, when we dealt with the death of an American abroad, we as federal agents, as U.S. diplomats, were not allowed to speak about the subject unless we were instructed so by the next of kin or family. So that's the reason why I bring that up. Thank you.
Very good point, Representative Bronco. Representative Kobayashi.
I have a very, very minor point. On page 2, The report about the death should include, quote, the race and ancestry of the descendant. This came up in a bill several years ago. Ancestry is sometimes difficult to know and sometimes unknown. That is, what would you say when you get someone whose ancestry might be quite mixed? And so I would say that perhaps ancestry might be struck from the proposed bill.
Thank you. Members, further questions? House Bill 796. Thank you, folks. We're going to roll right into decision making. We'll just keep it rolling, folks, if everyone's ready. Thank you, everyone. First up, we have House Bill 290 relating to vehicle weight taxes. Members, this repeals the exemption. We're going to put a sunset on this exemption instead. We're going to sunset this exemption in 10 years, June 30th, 2031. We'll defect the date to make it effective July 1st, 3050, and we'll make some technical amendments. Any questions? If not, Vice Chair, with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill 290 with amendments. Representative Bronco.
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Kong. Excused. Representative Morikawa.
Aye.
Representative Tarnas.
Aye.
Representative McDermott. Excused.
No.
Oh, I apologize.
No.
I'm so sorry.
And the chair and vice chair vote aye. Chair votes aye.
Yeah, chair votes aye. Vice chair votes aye. Thank you, Chair. Your measure is passed.
Thank you, members. House Bill 782 related to licensing. We're going to take a friendly amendment from one of our members on the committee and add the National Guard and Reserve into this bill as well. We're going to take some language from House Bill 961, specifically language that says on page 8, section E of the current bill, we'll add, quote, or the period covered under their military orders of assignment in the state of Hawaii. We'll defect the dates to July 1st, 3050 and make technical and non-substantive amendments. Members, questions, discussion, 782. Vice Chair with amendments.
Thank you, Chair. Members, we are voting on House Bill 782. The recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Any reservations? Any no votes? Chair, the member passes.
Thank you. With the excused absence of Representative Kong. Thank you. Next up, members, House Bill 1033. We're going to make technical amendments. Discussion. Vice Chair with amendments. House Bill 1033.
Thank you, Chair. Members, we are voting on House Bill 1033. The recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Are there any reservations? Are there any no votes?
Knowing the excused absence.
And an excused absence of Representative Kong. Chair, your measure passes.
Thank you, members. And the final bill on our agenda, House Bill 796. This certainly is a work in progress, but we want to send this over, hopefully, to Judd to continue to refine this bill. We're going to take some comments with everyone. On page 2, we're going to strike at the very top on line 1, and whether the death was caused by an injury sustained by the inmate while incarcerated. We'll strike that just because I think the medical examiner's report will be a little more conclusive. We'll also take the suggestion from one of our members, and we'll strike ancestry from line 13 on page 2. Finally, on page 3, line 12, instead of receipt of the report by the governor, we're going to say receipt of the medical examiner. That's when those that information shall go public. We'll defect the date to July 1st, 3050. Questions, comments, discussion? Yes.
Is race
equal ancestry?
Well, the point being was that ancestry going back a number of generations was hard to tell. I hope that there's some sort of information around current race that they have. Yeah, in my mind, they're a little different. Discussion, members? If not, Vice Chair, oh, sorry, Representative Bronco.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to note that I'll be voting with reservations on this, citing concerns for family and next of kin to have the first right to refuse for it to go to the general public.
Understood, good point. Okay, Vice Chair, with amendments.
Members, we are voting on House Bill 796. The recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. I'm noting, are there any reservations from Representative Bronco? Reservations from also Representative McDermott. Are there any no votes? Hearing none, Chair, your measure passes.
Excused absence and the excused absence of
I
Representative Kong.
keep doing that. Noting the excused absence of Representative Kong, Chair, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, we're adjourned. Thank you, members.